Hey there, gang. If you are looking for a time-saving strategy to get your weight training done and to get your weight training done in a very timely manner, try timing your rest periods or doing EMOMs every minute on the minute. This is something that I do more frequently now since my focus has shifted more toward bodybuilding, and I've shifted more toward ensuring that I have adequate volume, aka also known as sets programmed per week, as well as adequate effort. That being making sure that I'm taking the majority of my sets close to failure, and then some of those sets actually to failure. With those two things in mind, you can open up and kind of liberate yourself from some of the constraints that comes along with weight training and the time commitment that comes along with it, and ensuring that your weight training is effective, but in a time-efficient manner. As you can see with my way of doing this, I just have a little boxing timer, or I think it's actually called a Tabata timer, as you can see on my phone there in the lower right. And I set that to where I'm resting for somewhere around 35 to 40 seconds, and I'm working about 25 or 28 seconds, and then just put the thing on repeat for however many number of sets that I've got planned for the entire session. So as you can see here, I'm starting out the session just doing my chest supported dumbbell rows. And now I'm gonna start my rest period. As you can see, it's 37 seconds. I've sped it up in between so that you guys can at least kind of see during your rest periods, you can write down on chalkboard what your reps were, as I did there. You can go get a drink of water. As long as you're back at it, you know, when the work time comes, and as long as you are kind of somewhat meticulously doing your repetitions in a very uniform manner, and by that I mean making sure that you are using the same tempo, the same range of motion, at least until you fail, you can just basically put your head down, go to work, and then just listen for the timer. And when it comes time to rest, you stop your set. Hopefully you remembered how many repetitions that you did. Write it down on your piece of paper, enter it in on your phone, on your app. And then as I'm doing here, it takes a little bit of pre-setup, or at least a little bit of prior setup, knowing what it is that you're going to be doing as you're going through the work session. But then during your rest periods, you can efficiently and quickly move to the next exercise.
3, 2, 1.
As you can see here, I have changed from doing my chest supported rows to my overhead tricep extensions with the cable. I have the attachment all set up. I have the cable height all ready to go. And so I could just get the bench out of the way, grab my cable attachment, go to work. So as I said, you're going to want to do a little bit of pre-planning and make sure that you have essentially all of your exercises and all of your attachments ready to go so that you can efficiently move from one exercise to the next and get that done during the rest period that you have programmed. And then you just need some sort of a simple timer that might have an audible sound as to when you are starting each set and when you're ending each set. And you essentially have what you need to get a very effective weight training session in a very short period of time. Even a little bit of a cardiovascular component to it. As you can imagine, your heart rate, it stays up there for the duration of the entire session, since you're really only resting about 35 seconds between each of your sets. When it comes to choosing your loads for the exercises that you're going to do at the beginning of the session, you're probably going to want to use something that is about a 10 or 12 rep max load. Because in the first few circuits, the first few EMOMs, you're going to get and you're going to complete probably about 7 or 8 repetitions depending on your tempo. And as we know, if you're using a 10 to 12 rep max and you're making it to about 8 repetitions, at least those last few repetitions are countable volume in terms of the effort that you're putting out. However, I mean, if you're using a 10 rep max load, arguably even the first couple repetitions are going to be fairly effective because the load is just heavy enough that you're going to need to execute and pay attention to those and do them right. However, as you can imagine, if you're doing 5 sets every minute on the minute, you may end up actually failing and doing some post-failure partials, those last few repetitions of the last set or two. So be prepared to basically fail, but keep trying to move the load through the full range of motion on each repetition. And know what we now know with especially lengthened partial range repetitions, those are still highly effective, highly hypertrophic repetitions that you are doing. Then toward the end of the session, you might want to use a little lighter load because you're going to be fatigued. And you might find out that now you're going to fail much, quicker, and you're going to need lighter load to get to those good repetitions. So what you're going to see on these particular pull downs that I'm doing right now, I kind of misguessed my load, but not to worry. You're just going to see, I'm going to keep doing repetitions. They're just lengthened partial repetitions that are essentially post-failure. So you could actually see on that particular set that I just completed, I only got 5 reps total, and the first 3 were full range, and the last 2 were actually post-failure partial repetitions. But again, I'm okay with it. They're lengthened partials, which we know that lengthened muscle or long muscle length, I guess I should say, when that is being trained, that is just as good, possibly even better, as doing full range repetitions. So I'm okay with lengthened partials. And you can see here, because I kind of mischose and I chose a load that was too heavy, all of these are post-failure partials in the long length position. So again, during your rest periods, your heart rate's going to be elevated, but you do have enough time if you're doing like an EMOM or you're giving yourself about 35 to 40 seconds rest to actually be able to get a drink of water, write down the repetitions that you did. When the timer goes off, you can hear the audible little call. You get at it, you go again. There again, you could see those last 2 repetitions, I had failed. But just kind of go with it. Keep roughly the same tempo. Try to just get as far as you can and just pretend like you're doing repetitions. It's just that you're not going to get a full range of motion. So as you can see, I very quickly changed from my pull downs to my seated lat prayers and continuing the workout. I've got my timer right there, and I'm just going to continue on using very much the same methodology as I have shown you up until this point. So there again, you can see on that first set with the load that I've selected, I was able to complete all of my repetitions, a very consistent tempo on each and every one of my repetitions. Also a very consistent range of motion. Basically hitting my arms against my legs right there, right kind of between my legs near my crotch where I'm sitting on that bench each and every time until you'll see toward the end of these last few sets, I'm doing post-failure partials. I'm not getting that full range of motion anymore. So here again, I'm going to get about 18 sets of work done in 20 minutes. A very fast workout. So covering again, what is it that you need to train in this fashion? You basically need to have a boxing timer, or in my case, this Tabata app that I downloaded, or if nothing else, at least an iShot, a clock with an analog setting where it's got a second hand to where basically you just know that you need to start your next set when the second hand is at the top of every hour. Or if you have a timer, when you're at the top of each minute, you know that's when you need to get to work and give yourself 15 seconds on your timer and then rest for the other 45. Make sure that all of your stations, all of your exercises are kind of pre-set up and ready to go. As you can see here, I had my attachments pretty much ready to go. They were right there. I had my next set of dumbbells. I had everything preloaded, ready for me to just go from one station to the next. So a little bit of pre-planning is needed if you're going to train in this fashion. Possibly an empty gym, or at least if nothing else, like I do here, in your home gym. And then lastly, when it comes to your load selection, the first few exercises of your EMOMs, use a 10 to 12 rep max load, knowing that you are probably going to get all of your repetitions with some repetitions in reserve on the first few sets. But then at the end, you're going to start to see that you're actually failing and you're having to do post-failure partials. Then for those exercises that are going to be more so toward the end of the session, use a little bit lighter load. Use something that's more like about a 12 to 15 rep max load, and it's going to follow the same suit.
This course is all about custom tailoring a program for your needs, your goals, and your schedule. I'm going to be going over the big picture concepts that lead to how to actually set up a program. But then I'm going to pass the baton on to Coach Alberto Nunez, who's going to discuss how to apply these on a day-to-day basis. And you're also going to have a handy calculator and tracker that Coach Brad Loomis specifically created and what he uses with his clients. So this course is going to be all three of us collaborating together to teach you how to make your own custom program. It's everything you need to build something tailored to you to help you reach your goals.
Sometimes the best way to get to what the athlete wants is going to have you, like, here's the road, and you're going to kind of be doing this.
How can I get my hands on this sheet? How do I use it? How do I punch my program into it? So what you're going to notice is that right down over here, you've got a pull down menu. And in this pull down menu is a grouping of about 100 and some odd exercises.